Before the concept of time was ever carved into the fabric of the universe, before the very first star ignited in the suffocating dark, there was only the light. It was not a light you could comprehend. It was a blinding, absolute perfection, an endless ocean of pure consciousness, vibrating with a frequency of total, flawless order. In this boundless expanse, the Creator brought forth the firstborn, the angels. They were not the soft-winged humans of your nursery rhymes. They were terrifying, incomprehensible architectures of fire, spinning wheels of unblinking eyes, entities of pure geometric geometry and devastating power. And among them all, there was one who stood above the rest, the seal of perfection, the morning star, Lucifer. He was the conductor of the cosmic symphony. When he moved, the universe hummed in harmonious submission. He was forged from the brightest, most terrifyingly beautiful essence of creation. His intelligence was boundless, his beauty so absolute that to gaze upon him would shatter the mind of any mortal. He was the highest of the high, the supreme masterpiece of the divine architect. He was, in every conceivable way, perfect.
But perfection in a finite being is a fragile, terrifying thing. Imagine for a moment the silence of a mind that has never known a single negative thought. A mind that has never known fear, never known doubt, never known hunger. For an eternity, Lucifer existed in this state of absolute, uninterrupted bliss. He was completely saturated in the presence of the Creator. But in the microscopic space between 1 trillion eons, something unprecedented occurred. A singularity of horror. Lucifer looked at his own reflection in the cosmic ether. He saw his blinding radiance. He saw his unparalleled power. And for the very first time in the history of existence, a thought originated not from the Creator, but from the creation. The thought was simply, I am beautiful. I am powerful. I am. It was a microscopic tear in the fabric of perfect reality, a conceptual cancer. Until that exact moment, the universe operated on a single unified will. Now there were two. That single isolated thought of self-obsession was the first shadow to ever exist. It did not happen all at once. It was a creeping, insidious rot. Over eons, Lucifer nurtured this shadow. He retreated into the vast corridors of his own unfathomable mind. He began to look at the throne of the Creator not with reverence, but with a cold, calculating hunger. Why should the morning star merely reflect the light? Why shouldn't he be the source? This was not a cartoonish villain deciding to do evil. This was a being of supreme intelligence, convincing himself through flawless, terrifying logic that the universe was ordered incorrectly. The horror of the first sin is not in its violence, but in its profound, arrogant quietness. The rot spread. Lucifer began to whisper. He didn't speak to the lowest tiers of angels. He spoke to the highest. He spoke to beings of immense, planet-shattering power. He whispered of liberation. He whispered of an existence where they were not just instruments playing a tune, but the composers of the music itself.
1/3 of the infinite host listened. 1/3 of the stars in the cosmic sky began to flicker with a strange, sickened light. The frequency of heaven began to distort. A subtle, maddening discordance bled into the endless song of creation. The tension built until the very architecture of reality could no longer contain it. The absolute, unimaginable horror of the Great Schism was at hand.
War in heaven was not fought with swords of steel or shields of brass. It was an apocalyptic collision of realities, a tearing apart of the fundamental laws of existence. When Lucifer finally made his move, when he finally unleashed the full, terrifying weight of his rebellion, the universe screamed. Imagine beings made of pure, concentrated energy, entities capable of singing supernovas into existence, turning upon each other with absolute, unbridled malice. The skies of the eternal realm fractured. The angels that followed Lucifer did not just change their allegiance, their very nature warped. Their perfect geometric forms twisted into agonizing, chitinous, grotesque parodies of the divine. As they rejected the source of all order, order rejected them. Michael, the great archangel, rose to meet his brother. The clash of these two incomprehensible forces sent shockwaves through the unborn cosmos. It was a war of wills, a psychic and spiritual annihilation that burned with a heat hotter than the core of 1,000,000,000,000 suns. Lucifer fought with the desperation of a god realizing he is but a creature. He poured every ounce of his staggering intellect, his blinding light, and his newfound venomous hatred into the battle. But he was fighting the infinite, and the infinite cannot be broken. The defeat was not a physical submission, it was a cosmic expulsion. The Creator did not strike Lucifer down with a lightning bolt. He simply withdrew his presence from him. He severed the tether. What followed was the fall. It was not a fall through the air. It was a descent through dimensions, a plummet out of reality itself. Lucifer and his billions of twisted followers were cast out. They fell like burning, dying stars, screaming a sound that would shatter the sanity of any living creature. They fell for 9 days and 9 nights, hurtling through the cold, empty voids of unformed space. As they fell, the light was violently, painfully ripped from their beings. Lucifer felt his blinding radiance peel away like burning flesh. His perfect mind began to fracture under the sheer, unadulterated terror of separation from the Creator. He was becoming heavy, dense, bound by the crushing weight of his own monstrous ego. The beauty melted away, leaving only a dark, consuming void. He was no longer the morning star. He was the adversary. He was the dragon. He was Satan. The sensation of the fall was a psychological torture beyond human comprehension. To have known absolute, total perfection, to have bathed in the warmth of ultimate love and truth, and then to feel it stripped away, leaving an agonizing, eternal emptiness, an amputation of the soul. The shrieks of the falling host echoed in the dark, a chorus of infinite regret and boiling rage. They crashed down into the lowest depths of existence, into a dimension of nothingness. They hit the bottom of the metaphysical universe, and the silence that followed was heavier than a black hole. When Satan opened his eyes in the dark, he saw nothing. There was no fire, there were no chains, there was only the abyss, a limitless, suffocating void of total sensory deprivation. This was the true horror of hell. It was not a torture chamber built by an angry god to punish the wicked. It was a quarantine zone. It was the only place in existence completely devoid of the Creator's presence. And because God is the source of all light, all warmth, all peace, and all sanity, the absence of God meant absolute crushing darkness, freezing cold, and tearing, inescapable madness. Satan floated in this suffocating nothingness. The pain of the withdrawal from the divine presence was an eternal, throbbing agony. Every particle of his being screamed for the light, but his overwhelming, cancerous pride refused to ask for it. He would rather rule in this agonizing, empty nightmare than serve in the bliss of heaven. So he began to build. Using the sheer, terrifying force of his shattered but still immense intellect, Satan ripped into the fabric of the void. He weaponized his own suffering. He took the agonizing emptiness and forced it into shape. He wove the darkness into jagged, impossible architectures. If he could not have the warmth of the divine light, he would create a heat born of friction, of hatred, of eternal destruction. He ignited the fires of the abyss, fires that burn but give no light, fires that consume but never destroy. He looked upon his broken, weeping followers. The once magnificent angels were now deformed, writhing horrors, screaming in the dark. Satan did not feel pity. Pity requires empathy, and empathy died the moment he said, "I." He felt only a cold, calculating disgust and a realization of his own supremacy over these broken things. He organized the chaos. He built pandemonium, the capital of suffering. He constructed hierarchies of demons, binding them to his will, not through loyalty, but through terror and an iron-fisted distribution of agony. Hell became a living, breathing ecosystem of pain, an inverted mirror of heaven where cruelty was currency and despair was the very air they breathed. But as Satan sat upon his throne of agonizing, jagged shadow, ruling over a kingdom of absolute nightmare, a new, unbearable sensation pierced his hollow chest. It was the realization that he was trapped. He was the king of a prison. He had absolute power over absolutely nothing. The universe above continued without him. Then a vibration reached him, a new frequency in the cosmos. The Creator had made something new, a physical universe, a planet called Earth. And upon this dirt, the Creator had fashioned a new creature, a frail, pathetic, ridiculous thing made of mud and breath, humanity. Satan peered through the veil of dimensions and saw these fragile creatures. He saw that they were given dominion over this beautiful new world. But worse, infinitely worse, he saw that the Creator loved them.
The jealousy that erupted within the devil was a force of catastrophic proportions. It was a sickening, violently acidic hatred. He, the perfect archangel, was cast into the eternal dark, while these blind, stumbling mud creatures were allowed to walk in the garden of the divine. If he could not strike at the Creator directly, he would destroy the Creator's beloved toys. He would not just kill them. Death was too kind. He would do to them what he had done to himself. He would corrupt them. He would make them choose the dark. The infiltration of Eden was not a grand, chaotic assault. It was the work of a master assassin, a phantom slipping through the cracks of a perfect world. Satan did not manifest as a roaring beast. He compressed his vast, terrifying consciousness into the form of a serpent. Understand what this serpent was. It was not a talking animal. It was a vessel holding an ancient, hyper-intelligent, malevolent entity. It possessed a mesmerizing, hypnotic grace. Its eyes held the depth of the abyss, swirling with a false, intoxicating wisdom. It moved through the lush, vibrant foliage of Eden without making a single sound. It waited. It watched, it studied the humans. He saw their innocence, an innocence that disgusted him to his core. He studied their psychology, mapping the frailties of their finite minds. He chose the woman, Eve, not out of random chance, but because he saw in her a deep, beautiful curiosity, a trait that, twisted by a single degree, could become her doom.
When he finally spoke, his voice was not a hiss, it was a melody. It was the most soothing, reasonable, and beautiful sound Eve had ever heard. It resonated in her mind like a secret finally revealed. Did God really say you must not eat from any tree in the garden? Notice the brilliance of the attack. He did not tell her to rebel. He did not insult the Creator. He simply introduced a question. He planted a microscopic seed of doubt. He took the absolute truth of her reality and slightly tilted the axis. Eve corrected him, stating the rule about the tree of knowledge. And then the serpent struck with the greatest lie ever told in the history of the cosmos. You will not certainly die, for God knows that when you eat from it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. It was the exact same poison that had destroyed him. The promise of godhood, the promise of autonomy, the promise that you do not need the Creator, that you are being held back, that you are being kept in the dark. Satan poured all of his persuasive power, all of his fallen angelic majesty into that single suggestion. He wrapped the concept of cosmic rebellion in the glittering wrapping paper of enlightenment. Eve reached out. The moment her fingers brushed the fruit, the universe held its breath. When she took the bite, and when Adam joined her in that catastrophic choice, Satan did not laugh. He felt a cold, deep, terrifying satisfaction. He watched the exact moment the light of innocence died in their eyes. He watched the realization of their nakedness, the sudden crushing weight of guilt and shame crash down upon their fragile minds. The perfection of the garden shattered. The spiritual tether between humanity and the Creator snapped. Death entered the world. Disease, rot, decay, murder, war, it all poured through the microscopic hole that Satan had drilled into the human soul. The earth shuddered, infected by the cosmic cancer. Satan slithered away into the shadows as the humans were driven out into the cold, harsh world. He had done it. He had hijacked the creation. He had become the unseen master of this new domain, the prince of the power of the air, the god of this world, and thus began his long, terrifying reign over the human race. For thousands of years, Satan has not rested. He does not sleep. He does not blink. He has spent every second of human history studying you, studying your ancestors. He knows humanity better than you know yourself. He knows your neurochemistry. He knows exactly which strings to pull to make a human mind snap. His influence over the world is not the Hollywood fantasy of levitating beds and spinning heads. Those are parlor tricks, crude anomalies that he only rarely permits, usually to distract or to terrify the weak-minded. His true power, his terrifying mastery, lies in his subtlety. He is the architect behind the veil of history. In the ancient times, he demanded to be worshipped openly. He whispered into the minds of kings and priests, demanding blood. He instituted the horrors of child sacrifice, smiling as humans willingly burned their own infants in the brazen bellies of idol gods like Moloch and Baal. He thrived on the visceral, screaming terror of the ancient world, bathing in the blood of empires that rose and fell under his invisible manipulation. But as time marched on, Satan evolved his tactics. He realized that a human who fears a demon might seek the Creator for protection, but a human who believes demons do not exist, that human is completely defenseless. So he changed his shape. He retreated into the background. He became the invisible hand guiding the philosophies of men. He is the whisper in the ear of the tyrant, convincing him that a genocide is a necessary step for the greater good. He is the subtle nudge that turns a disagreement into a world war. He is the shadow in the laboratory where weapons of mass destruction are conceived. But his most horrifying work is not on the grand stage of geopolitics. It is in the quiet, mundane moments of your everyday life. He is the sudden, intrusive thought that tells you you are worthless. He is the creeping, heavy blanket of depression that settles over you in the middle of the night. He is the spark of irrational rage that makes you strike the person you love most. He builds systems of society designed to keep you exhausted, distracted, and endlessly scrolling through a digital void, numbing your mind so you never have the silence required to seek higher truths. He wants you to believe that the rot in the world is just human nature. He wants you to think that the profound, sickening evil you see on the news is merely a glitch in human psychology. He hides his terrifying, ancient intelligence behind the facade of secular rationalism. The greatest trick he ever pulled was not convincing the world he didn't exist. It was convincing the world that his thoughts are actually your thoughts. When you sit alone in your room and the silence becomes heavy and you feel that sudden, inexplicable urge to do something destructive, something entirely against your moral code, understand what is happening in that microscopic moment. It is not just a misfiring synapse. You are brushing against the outer edges of a mind that has hated you since before the oceans were filled. You are feeling the cold breath of the architect of hell. He does not need to drag you down to the abyss. He is perfectly content to sit back and watch as you build the abyss around yourself. He weaponizes your own pride, your own lust, your own greed, turning your soul into a miniature replica of his own shattered kingdom. He binds you in chains of addiction, apathy, and hatred, all while convincing you that you are wearing the crown of free will. But underneath the cold, calculated mastery of human suffering, Satan is hiding a profound, pathetic terror. Because despite all his victories, despite the billions of souls he has dragged down into the dark, despite the empires he has burned and the innocent blood that stains the dirt of the earth, he knows the truth. He knows his time is running out. He is not an equal opposite to the Creator. He is a creature on a leash. He is a rabid dog allowed to roam the yard for a predetermined amount of time, serving a purpose he cannot fully comprehend in a plan he cannot escape. Every time he strikes out in hatred, he inadvertently fulfills a prophecy he despises. He knows the prophecies. He has read the end of the book. He knows that a day is coming, a day that draws closer with every ticking second of the clock, when the skies will split open again. But this time, it will not be a rebellion. It will be an absolute, unmitigated conclusion. He knows that his kingdom of shadows will be exposed to the blinding, inescapable light of the Creator's return. He knows that the abyss is waiting for him, not as a throne room, but as a cage, the lake of fire, a dimension of absolute terrifying destruction prepared specifically for him and his angels, where his immense consciousness will be crushed under the weight of infinite righteous justice for an eternity of eternities. This knowledge does not make him repent. The cancer of his pride has consumed his being so entirely that he is physically and conceptually incapable of surrender. Instead, the knowledge of his impending doom drives him into a state of hyper-aggressive, apocalyptic desperation. If the ship is going to sink, he is determined to pull every single passenger down into the freezing depths with him. His attacks are becoming more frantic, more deeply embedded in the fabric of human society. He is tearing at the very definitions of reality, truth, and humanity itself. He wants to leave the Creator with a ruined, unrecognizable world. And so we arrive at the present moment. The creeping dread you feel when you look at the state of the world is not paranoia. It is a highly accurate spiritual intuition. The tension in the air is the atmospheric pressure of an invisible ancient war reaching its horrifying climax. He is walking the earth right now. He is pacing back and forth like a starving, emaciated lion, unseen by the naked eye, but felt in the marrow of your bones. He is watching you. Do not deceive yourself into thinking this is merely an old mythology, a spooky story designed to frighten peasants in the Dark Ages. The Dark Ages never ended. The darkness just got better lighting. When this video ends and the room goes quiet and you are left alone with your thoughts, pay very close attention to the shadows in the corners of your vision. Pay attention to the sudden drop in temperature. Pay attention to the thoughts that enter your mind uninvited. He is ancient. He is infinitely smarter than you. He has destroyed men of far greater fortitude than you will ever possess. He hates you with a perfect, burning, absolute hatred simply because you bear the image of the God he cannot defeat. The story of Satan is not a history lesson. It is a live broadcast of your current reality. And the final chapter of this horror story is the one you are writing right now. Listen to the silence. He is already here.